Hello there, I'm Nathalia Melo, your unfiltered fit BFF, mom of two turned CEO of a fitness empire. Someone who understands the struggles of trying to stay fit, sane, and sexy, all while juggling work, life, and motherhood. And this is the Unfiltered Fit Life podcast. Follow along wherever you're listening and join me weekly as I help busy working moms just like you simplify their fitness journey so they can lose weight, regain their confidence, and feel sexy AF. It's time to stop living in the what ifs and hiding from the cameras. It's time to regain control over your body, feel sexy naked, and wear a bikini confidently. People already see you as a super confident woman, but it's time for you to feel the same way too. Let's go. Hello there, fam. Welcome to another episode of the Unfiltered Fit Life podcast. And today I have a very exciting guest. I met this guy in one of the masterminds that I'm in, and he came out of nowhere and he started doing some presentations in the mastermind. And I attended the first one and I'm like, he kind of makes sense, you know? And after that, I kept on showing up consistently every Friday that he did a presentation because I could really see the impact. And then eventually, we met in person at the in-person mastermind event, but it was very exciting to start to learn a little bit more about myself in a business setting. So Gavin, welcome to the Unfiltered Fit Life podcast. I'm going to give a little bit, you're a business performance coach who helped high performers get out of their own way and see success they know they deserve. Is that a good intro there?
Yes. Yeah, I think based on what you said there, I think that's, it sounds like that's what we were able to do for you is like, there's just that like recognition. Where am I not serving myself? Where are my patterns not helping me get what I want? And I think I absolutely love when people say that I surprised them, kind of came out of nowhere, came in hot and shared my stuff. And I think that if I can, I love doing that because it adds to the whole, like this whole factor of like learning about yourself and going, whoa, this guy's like speaking directly to me. And then if there's that surprise factor, it really helps people really tune in so hopefully we can surprise some people today and come out of nowhere as well.
I'm sure we will. I've had even asked my community in the Powerhouse Academy questions that they had. So I'm going to sprinkle some of them. But before we get started, can you give us a little bit of a Cliff's Note version of, your background? Because you do come from a professional sports background as well. And how that shaped you to be here today, just so people can have a better understanding of who Gavin is.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I always say to people, okay, professional sports, very close. I don't like to say I was a professional. I was like there for one day and it's an interesting story, but I came very close.
That's
and
professional.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I think that the way my story plays out is exactly like where a lot of people find themselves scared to get to. And then, I think I can show people like, look, you can be okay after this happens. So grew up in the middle of Canada. We were just talking about it, 20-hour drive north of where Nathalia is in Winnipeg, Canada, on the prairies. And pretty much the only things we do here are drink beer and play hockey, and either order. It doesn't really matter. So, as a teenager, that's all I did. I mean, as a kid, that's all I did. Grew up playing hockey and I was a goalie, and I ended up getting to essentially one step away from professional hockey. I was 17 years old, 18 years old. It was like my draft year for the National Hockey League, which is the highest level you can play. And I orchestrated what I call a complete meltdown over the course of that hockey season that essentially ended my hockey career and my opportunity to play professionally, and led me down this path of, I didn't know that was what was happening in the moment. In hindsight, I recognized I had no idea how to deal with failure. I had no idea how to overcome these limiting beliefs where I just subconsciously, I felt like I didn't belong there. I didn't know why I was there. And I was just like, I'd always been the big fish in the small pond in this kind of small city of Winnipeg. And then I left and it was like, what is this all about? What is all this failure and these struggles and these challenges? And it was when I really realized it was when I started to, I went to school, went to university, kind of followed that path when I knew hockey wasn't going to work out. And I became a personal trainer. And when I was trying to grow my business beyond quote unquote like normal levels and go online and all this stuff, this was before online was cool. I found myself falling into the same patterns of shying away from failures, going, "Oh, this is good enough. I won't try and be better. I won't try and improve myself." And I found myself falling into these same patterns. And that's when I recognized it's like, it doesn't matter how many times I stayed out late after practice for hockey or how many coaches I enrolled with that taught me Instagram and sales and all this stuff. What mattered was I needed to sort out what was between the ears. I needed to figure out, how do I deal with failure? How can I move past these blocks that I have put in place to quote unquote protect me? And that's where obviously we met.
I love that, because this was actually a question that I had for later on, but you just teed me up so perfectly here that I cannot pass the opportunity. Because I'm hearing from you is a very self-sabotage kind of like story. You're like almost there, and then you kind of start to self-sabotage because for some reason. And that's something that in fitness I see day in and day out as a coach, and that's actually something that one of our members in the Powerhouse Academy asked today leading up to this episode was like, why is it that every time that I'm seeing progress, my clothes are feeling better? I know that I'm doing well. Then I see that as a green light to just derail myself and go backwards. So why is it now, with your experience, why is it that people do that?
I believe that this is because we feel we don't deserve it. And this isn't always conscious. But if we can dig deep enough, we recognize that because of our past or because of who we think we are or our identity, about how we fit in the world or, the role we play in the world leads us to think that we don't deserve it, that we shouldn't have it, that we're not good enough for it or whatever. So for me in hockey, it was, I'm not good enough to be at that level. And I think for people who are trying to lose weight or trying to change any habit in their life, really, is we feel, well, because of all this other stuff, I don't deserve it. And the big issue with that, Nathalia, is this belief we have that we should deserve it, that we need to deserve it. If you've ever seen anybody who's a millionaire who is an idiot, right? Like, we've seen a lot of people who are millionaires who can't tie their shoes.
They're plenty.
Do they deserve it? There are plenty, right? And we've seen a lot of people who are physically fit and don't really work that hard to be physically fit, like quote unquote, do they deserve it? I don't know, but does it even matter if they deserve it, right? So it's like this kind of like logical junction that doesn't really help us, that like I need to deserve it and that I don't deserve it, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, who's to tell you who deserves it?
Yeah.
Whose decision is that?
Here's the other thing that I want to ask that is also parallel with something else that happened with one of our members, is that she started to see results very rapidly and she had not told anybody about her journey. And whenever people start to realize that she was working on herself, she kind of started to panic and start to self-sabotage because she now knew that people knew. And I don't know if this is something that happened with you, that maybe that's why you crumbled on your hockey journey, because, you were on the journey to
100%.
becoming pro and everybody knew, and then you crumbled. Why does this happen?
Yeah. I mean, listen, all my friends, when I was 18 years old, about to play professional hockey, were drinking in each other's basements, playing video games, right? So I was actually the abnormal one in my friend group. And when you have an identity that allows you to fit in with a group of people, it's really hard to change that identity. And it's scary to change that identity. So, if you are doing this great program and taking back control of your life, but all of your friends are, woe is me, life sucks. I ate too much again, I don't feel good in my skin, all this stuff. Like, how can you go in there and say, I'm having all this success. Look at my weight loss. Look how good I feel. Like, it's not, people are going to judge you for that. And then the other thing that I notice with self-sabotage, when we kind of get to this, like we call it like a new level, right? When we kind of become this next version of ourselves, is the expectations of us change, right? When I'll give you an example, right? So when someone is very clearly overweight, there's a level of expectation of that person in society, in their mind, is like, well, people think I'm lazy, people won't expect much of me, whatever. As soon as you show up in a room and you have muscles and you look super fit and you're confident, there's a totally different level of expectation on you. And that's really scary. That doesn't align with this identity that we have of ourselves of being this lazy person who doesn't really, oh, no one really expects much of me anyway. So you can see how these things are starting to like kind of like conflict one another. And whenever there's conflict in the subconscious brain, I should probably give a little bit of backstory there. Our subconscious brain is 95 to 98% of our brain. That's our beliefs about ourselves, the stories we tell about ourselves, our identity, how we fit into the world. The conscious brain, the thing that wants to lose weight, the thing that wants to be successful, the logic, the decision making, that's 2 to 5% of your brain. Now, if there's ever a conflict between the subconscious and the conscious, if the subconscious thinks I'm a lazy victim who is powerless, and the conscious is going, but I want to be powerful and I want to take back control, the subconscious is always going to win because it's 95 to 98% of your brain. And its job is to protect you and keep you safe, even if that means that's taking away from what you consciously want. Right. So we can see that all these beliefs and all these thoughts and these fears lead to these conflicts between our subconscious and conscious, and our subconscious will always win.
I love that. And I love that because literally today, about 2 hours ago, I had a call with a lady, and I'm not joking. Yeah. Every 5 minutes, she said, because I'm so lazy. Oh, because I can't stick to anything. Yeah. Oh, because there is no way that I can do this. Oh, because, and she kept on speaking. I actually had to stop, and I'm like, you are not going to create any change if you don't stop speaking about yourself in the way that you are. And whenever we start, she has been a pioneer in her career on certain things that nobody has done before without a degree that she doesn't have. So she had this trail of success that to prove otherwise, but yet she kept on speaking about herself in that manner. So what can someone do that is stuck in that loop of misery? I like to call, we might have to have a different fancier name, but it's a loop of misery. What can someone that is in that loop, always telling themselves that they are not enough, that they are lazy, that they suck, that they can never stick to anything? How do you get out of it?
I love that name, loop of misery. As painful as it sounds, it just nails it, because it truly is a loop. It's just a spiral down the drain, right, of just constant misery. So how do we catch ourselves? How do we get out of it? The first part of this is awareness. And what you did for this woman, whether she ever talks to you again, ever or not, you have changed her life because she became aware of the way that her language is not serving her. So I talk a lot about changing your beliefs and your subconscious beliefs. And a belief really is just a habitual thought. It's just a thought that we think over and over and over and over again until we believe it to be true, right? So how do we get to habitual thoughts? Well, our thoughts come from the language we use, the words we use, the way we speak, right? That creates our thoughts, and then habitual thoughts create beliefs. And it's been said, and I truly believe this, the most powerful words in the English language come after I am. I am lazy. Okay? If you are saying I am lazy, you are now identifying as a lazy person, which means all of the things that come with being a lazy person are now part of your identity. Here's the thing with our subconscious brain. So this is like part of our subconscious brain called the reticular activating system, which its job is to tell our conscious brain what to focus on, right? So if I say to you, Nathalia, right, when you're at home later, I want you to look for red cars on the street. You're going to see more red cars on the street. Or if you're looking for a new house, you're going to see more for sale signs in front of houses, right? That's our reticular activating system. The issue is it's just a soldier. Our reticular activating system doesn't actually think for itself. It goes, what's the stuff that you're feeding me? I'm going to give you evidence of that. I'm going to give you proof of that. So if you are constantly saying, I'm lazy, I'm lazy, I'm lazy, I'm lazy, your subconscious brain, your reticular activating system is going to go, great. Here's some evidence that you're lazy. You don't get up off the couch, you're not going to the gym, you're not doing this. And you're only recognizing the places where you're lazy. Now, you said this. She actually has many places in her life where she's not lazy at all. She's a pioneer. She's doing these crazy things. She's probably a parent. She's probably, doing all these other things. But your brain, because there's too much to focus on, her reticular activating system goes, no, you told me you're lazy. So we're only going to look for examples that you're lazy, right? And so knowing this and having the awareness, we can now go, anytime that I say I am, anytime that I identify myself as something, I'm speaking that into truth. And guys, this may start to sound spiritual. This is scientifically proven. What you speak becomes your truth. Okay. Reality is not the world you live in. It's the world you see. Mm-hmm. What you see is your reality. So if we change the way we speak, I know, Nathalia, I know you're vibing on this. If we change the way we speak about ourselves, we will change the things we see. And that's huge.
100%.
Anyway, there's my rant for the day.
Rant all you want. That kind of rant, you can come here any day, my friend. And, I can identify with that very much because I don't know if you know, but whenever I decided to start competing, the reason I started to compete was because I was bartending at the time and I was getting white girl wasted, shit faced every single night. And I knew that I didn't want that for my life anymore. And I wanted to tell myself that I was capable of doing bigger, better things and have control of my own self. And that's something that I kept on repeating. And it was hard because the environment that I worked at was full of people that were getting there to get shit-faced. So I was the outcast of that environment. So that was, that really resonated with me. I've experienced that firsthand.
Yeah. And I think what's important about that, right? Because a lot of people are going to say, but, my friends or my family or whatever.
That,
right?
Yes.
Yeah. And you were able to act as if, this is one of my favorite kind of like little things, is act as if, even though you were still in this like not so good situation, right? It's like, okay, I'm a bartender, but if I don't identify as a bartender and as a binge drinker, I identify as a competitive bodybuilder who also happens to bartend to make some money on the side, everything shifts, right? If I identify as lazy, we know what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. But if I identify as someone who is willing to work hard for the things that I want, or I identify as someone who is efficient in the things that I do, is a nice, funny way to change lazy, and have been lazy in the past, sure, it's going to change the way we act. Mm-hmm. And so even though you were in that environment, it's obviously easier to change the environment, like if you could have gotten out of there, but it was a job and it was paying you money. So if we change the way we think about ourselves, it makes the hard things easier. Yeah. So you changed your identity. I'm not a bartender who just goes out and binge drinks. I'm a competitive bodybuilder. And that makes the no thanks, I'm not going to have a second, third, fourth, fifth, eighth, 20th drink a lot easier.
And I love that you said acknowledging that you can change your environment, because a lot of times, whenever we're talking with professional women, high performers, they're lawyers, they're, C-suite executives, they are like, they have to go for a dinner with clients or with their team. It's not that they can change that environment, but they can change how they perceive themselves and how they place an order whenever they are in their restaurant. So, which then brings me to my next question, which is something that I've seen you talk about, and I would love for you to elaborate, which is that most people focus on changing their actions and relying on willpower. And it's like, oh, I'm just going to white knuckle my way into, being the best of the best. But their beliefs about themselves don't change. So from your experience working with high performers,
Yeah.
how likely it is for a person that just changes their action and not their behavior and their beliefs, how likely are them to have long-term success, business, fitness, life, whatever that is?
What's interesting is if we're talking high performers, like folks like me and you and like lawyers and doctors and people like this, the funny part is like you could probably white knuckle your way to success for a while because like, look, you and I are the type of people who, if we have to, I'll just keep running through a wall. Like, sure. That being said, it's not very sustainable, right? So even if you do, it's not sustainable. And, let's say you don't change your identity. You're not drinking at the bar. Oh, no, I'm not. There's going to be one night where you get real white girl wasted. And like, it's like, because you just can only hold off for so long. Right. So what happens here is when it's a fragile way to live because when any part of the environment changes, if we haven't changed our belief about ourselves, that's when we're screwed, right? My favorite example is the one I've talked to you about and I spoke on, right? Is like, you're trying to lose weight. Okay, I'm just going to remove the chips from my house. Great. That's good. It's a good thing. Just remove the chips from your house. But what happens when you go to a party and there's a bowl of chips and you still believe that you can't control yourself around chips? You're going to eat the chips. Or you go to Chili's and Chili's is the best because they put the chips and the salsa out before and it's free and you just go to town on it, right? Like this is not ideal if you're trying to lose weight, right? But it gets so much easier if you shift your identity to I can control myself around chips or I'm becoming a healthier version of myself. It's the same as if you were at a barbecue with beef burgers and a vegan was there. They're going to be like, no, I don't eat that because I identify as a vegan. It's not like, sure, you're being so nice about it. I'll just have this beef burger. No, they don't identify, like they don't do that. So when I gave up drinking, it's like, I don't drink. I just don't do that anymore. And now it's not like, if you just ask me 6 times and make fun of me, then I'll drink. It's like, no, it's not what I do. Now it becomes ingrained in our subconscious as a belief, and that makes the decisions easier.
100%. And I think that, and it's so funny because it's so aligned with the way that I work with our ladies. Because people think that it's just about the more strategies and like the more tips and finding more PDFs on the internet. And, we are in an era that there is no lack of information out there, but yet people are still struggling with, binging and like thinking that they have to cut everything because they are not
more than ever,
nor allowed to. And I find that the way that you're describing, and that's the way that I align with, it's so much more empowering because you are making the choice whether or not you're going to have the drink. It is on you because it is important to you and not because somebody came here and told you that you can or cannot do it. Because as humans, what do we want to do? I don't know about you, but if somebody tells me don't do that, I'm like cute and I'll go there and do that. So it's a lot more empowering to have that.
Yeah. And so this comes down to what I think might be the biggest hack of all when it comes to our mindset is taking responsibility for yourself and your actions. And that's scary for a lot of people. I think for me and you in our lives, because you had mentioned you've made some big changes in your life and I've done the same. It's really scary to look yourself in the mirror and go, this was my fault. I did this. I got myself here. At the same time, it's the most empowering thing you can do, which is I got myself into this mess and I can get myself out of this mess. And there's nothing better. And when we look at like the kind of like the frequency of emotions, and I like to talk about frequency and vibes and all that stuff. The lowest frequency emotions that we can feel are powerlessness and victim mindset, which is, I can't change this whatsoever. I have no power over this situation.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you're in deep trouble.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can just flip the switch to, I can take responsibility for my next action and for how I respond to this shitty situation or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
everything changes.
I love that. And I align with it so very much. It's wild. Now I want to switch gears and really focus on the high achieving folks, because it is a big part of the audience listening to here. So how do you see, because I see that's something that you talk a lot about on, the times that I've seen you speak and the podcast that I've listened with you. How do you see that high achieving people getting their own way?
Oh, that's a really good question. I call this kind of like the former athlete's paradox, or the former athlete. Like the sports teach us so many good things. School teaches us so many good things. One of the problems with sports is this. Simon Sinek wrote a book called The Infinite Game.
Oh, I have to read that one.
So sports and a whole bunch of other, chess and all that stuff, they are finite games, right? So there's an opponent, there are rules, and the game is played to be finished, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we're playing the game so that someone wins and someone loses and we're done. Business, fitness, marriage, life are all an infinite game, we call it, right? You can't win. You can't finish the game, right? If you want to win at marriage, you stay married. If you want to win at fitness, you stay alive / fit, right? The game, there aren't really set rules, right? The rules are kind of like
fluid,
mushy, and
they're
we're
very
not really
fluid.
sure. And then it's totally fluid. We don't really know what the rules are. They change all the time. There's no opponents per se. Like there's not someone actively trying to win and that makes you lose, right? And this is the infinite game. And so what we do as high performers, so what I did, right? For me, I was a goalie in hockey. The scoreboard was very important to me, because if we were winning on the scoreboard, that meant I was doing a good job. What I did when I got into business was I went, well, the scoreboard for me is now money. I've just decided that.
Stop attacking me.
Yeah, exactly, Nathalia. I'm like pointing the finger at you, right? It's like, okay, the scoreboard for me is now money, and therefore I win, lose, live, die by what my bank account or what my income level is, right? And it's like, if you are using money as your marker for how successful you are never going to be fulfilled. And so the same thing with weight loss, right? Is like, if we're using this as the only marker for success, well, there's always more money we can make. There's always more weight we can lose. There's always more that we could be doing. And so we're never going to be fulfilled. What we really want is the feeling that gives us, right? The feeling of winning for me in hockey gave me this confidence and this powerful empowerment and all that, right? Same thing with money, same thing with fitness, right? So we need to learn there's no winning and losing. Winning is just continuing to play. And that's really hard for a former athlete or for a high performer who has used that external validation as their marker for success in the past.
Oh my goodness, this was so powerful, because I know that resonates with me, and it resonates with my audience, which is all high performance. And I think that is powerful there. What you say is that the idea, because what we do in sports is like, I remember getting ready for the Olympia, I was like, I just need to get to show day. And at all costs, whatever it take, I'll burn the candle on both ends. I worked 3 jobs. But then whenever you're talking about life, and that's, I think, what a lot of people fail to understand, a lot of the ladies that I work with, high performers, have competed at some point. They think that whenever they come to their strategy in life, it's going to be the same strategy that they use there. And it's not. So I see them thinking that more is better. Oh, I need to cut my calories more. I have to do more cardio. I have to work harder. I have to train more. And then they end up burning the candle on both ends.
Yeah. And then what? then we're screwed because then we can't exercise. And then when we're tired, you know what happens. We binge, we eat crap. So it's like the big thing that I see with those types of performers, because I mean, I've been there and I know you've been there, is it's great and it works until it doesn't anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're screwed and we go, well, why can't I just outwork this problem? You can't. And I think this also comes when you look at high performers, this also comes from like, I want it to happen faster. And it's like, okay, well, you cutting your calories to 500 calories is going to make it happen faster, and it's going to make you sick real fast. And then we're going to have to do this whole refeed thing, get you back to a level where you can actually do something again. And it's going to actually take longer. So you're going to see this like really short-term result quickly. And then we're going to have to totally rebuild a whole, because like, I mean, you've done the bodybuilding shows, you know exactly how it is. It's like, we get to this place again, by any means necessary. And then it takes months, if not years, to rebuild back to a fully functioning human being, a normal human being, right? So in your attempt for speed, you're actually sacrificing so much, and you're going to have to make that back up on the back end, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, and Hormozi says this really well, you know, if we look at these infinite games, you know, fitness, money, all that stuff, in terms of decades and not years or months, you start to make different decisions, which is like, look, you're already moving faster than most of the people on the face of the planet, even if your weight isn't moving, but you're exercising 4 days a week and following Nathalia's nutrition plan. You're already way ahead of the game. Let's just let this play out as it's going to, because you can't lose if you just keep going.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which, you know, it's powerful because kind of like I talked about before, one of the biggest things whenever I started coming from the background that I did, where it was like more cardio and more caloric deficit and more all the things. So,
yeah.
And whenever I became somewhat normal human being, and I was like, okay, I just want to stay fit for life. And I start to coach that. I start to see that people are like, they would look at a plan. They were like, well, but I need more. I need more tactics. Like and they were focusing on the little things that don't really move the needle, because people often think that more is going to give better results. And then they start to self-sabotage, and then it gets back in that misery loop. They start to self-sabotage because, oh, there is no way that that's going to work for me.
And again, this comes back to the reticular activating system. If you think it needs to be hard and brutal and uncomfortable and hungry all the time and constantly sweating and all this stuff, it will be. Your reticular activating system will go, here you go. Here's a bunch of hard stuff that's really sucks. Whereas like what I know of you and what I know of a lot of your methods is like, okay, it's not going to be like easy to lose weight, but it can be really simple. It can be like, hey, make sure you exercise more than you have been. Make sure you get your steps in. Make sure you're eating lots of protein, and make sure you're generally eating whole foods and drinking water, and you're going to be okay in the long run. In the next 2 weeks, you might not see the weight on the scale drop, but in the next 2 years, compound interest will allow you to be in probably the best shape of your life, if you can just be patient for, you know, a bit of time.
I love that. And I'm going to make a note here on the patience, because I have a question on that. And, but just following up on what you say, because I love that you mentioned that it's not going to be easy, because I think that a lot of people confuse with like simplicity with just being, oh, I'm just going to keep on living the same life that I lived before and expect a different result. And there is always going to be some level of trade-off. So can you kind of walk us through how somebody who is, you know, willing to change their lifestyle or, you know, change their career, or take that next step, to filter through in their minds on what the trade-offs that they're willing to deal with are. Like walk me through or walk somebody imaginary on how to pinpoint whether that decision is a good decision or a bad decision based on the trade-offs.
That's really what I think, if someone were to sign up with you, that's probably the biggest difference is if you want to have different results, you have to make different decisions, right? So like if I were standing in the grocery store, right, and normally I would turn left and go to the chip and pop aisle, I have to make a different decision to turn right and go to the fruits and vegetables aisle. And then I just have to keep making that same decision over and over and over and over again, right? Like that's what success is. And I think a lot of times it's the moments like we think that, oh, like this is too easy, but like where your clients win or lose is, hey, are you willing to trade one more Netflix episode for more sleep? Are you willing to trade out your rum and Coke for a club soda or a water? Like, are you willing to trade those things? It's not like, are you willing to go and do 10 more sprints? Because if you're already like someone who drives hard and pushes hard, doing more work is never going to be a problem for you. That's never going to be hard for you. It's making the decisions. It's always the things that you don't want to do that are the most important to getting to where you want to go. And those are going to be the things that feel like you're not doing anything. You're like, what are you talking about? Change a Coke out for a club soda. But if you change 30 Cokes a month out for 30 club sodas, that's freaking huge.
Yeah.
If you change, 30 snacks of chips and dip for a handful of nuts, that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's not, those are the things that like get overlooked and are never going to be, if you don't make those changes, they're never going to be solved by more sprints, by less overall calories. It's like, you have to energetically make the decision to do the thing that you don't want to do. That's hard for you to do, but doesn't seem quote unquote hard in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, no, I love that. And one thing that I see often, and if you want to chip in on that, that would be amazing, is that, for example, they start. And it sometimes is in business. That's something that I see oftentimes, even in mentorship programs that I'm in. Oh, I want to be like a millionaire and I want to be like Elon Musk. Like I know that he's not a fan's favorite. For some people, that's the first name that came to mind. But they're not willing to do the things. It's kind of like, oh, I want to lose weight. Oh, but I still want to go to McDonald's 6 days a week because I really love McDonald's. And it's like, oh, really? I thought you told me that I was going to be able to like eat whatever I wanted, or, here's what is required, at least at first in business. I mean, there are going to be some days that it's going to be Groundhog Day. We cannot sit here and pretend that you like be the guy on the internet that is saying that you can get rich working 3 hours a day. And that's how it's going to happen. There is going to be a period of behavioral change that needs to happen. So how does that person that is getting into, for example, fitness, how do they separate? Oh, I need to have McDonald's 5 days a week. Okay, maybe that's what you want, but how do I help them see, or how do you help them see that in order to get a different results, they are going to have different actions?
Well, I think this can be logicked. I use that. You can logic your way through this, right? It's like, okay, let's look at what's happened. So you want to have McDonald's 5 days a week. Cool. You have been having McDonald's 5 days a week up until this point for the last however long. How's that working for you? And I would imagine if they're on a call with you, it's not working very well.
Mm-hmm.
So right there, like I was once told this incredible piece of advice, and this is a lot of the work that I do, is if you tell someone something, so if I tell you, Nathalia, you eating McDonald's 5 days a week is going to make you and keep you fat, you can reject that and say, no, it's not. Other people have told me I can eat whatever I want and I can still have the body I want. cool. But if I ask you questions that lead you to answer that question yourself, as in, hey, so you had mentioned that you're overweight and you're not happy with your weight and you're eating McDonald's 5 days a week. Can we agree that maybe that's not working for you right now?
Mm-hmm.
Now you can't dispute that because you've just answered the question yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the biggest thing that I'll do with a lot of people is I'll just let them answer their own question, which is like, you're doing all this stuff and you're here telling me it's not working, but then you say you want to keep doing it. What if we try my way for like 3 months, let's say? Try my way for 3 months. If you don't like it, you can always go back to eating McDonald's 5 days a week. And then all you've really traded off is 3 months of not eating McDonald's. If it doesn't work, honestly, if it doesn't work, I'll give you your freaking money back.
Mm-hmm.
If it does work, then let's just keep doing it. And let's like recognize it. Like, cause it's always like, I think the thing that holds so many people back is like you said, it's this, like, they're afraid. We're often more afraid of the unknown than we are of like a known bad thing. And so Joe Dispenza says this as, our nervous system will always choose a familiar hell over an unfamiliar heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even if we know it's bad, at least we know. Instead of like, I don't know what will happen. And if I stop eating McDonald's and eat all these crappy vegetables and I don't lose weight, then that's going to be even worse. And I don't know if I'm going to lose weight.
Uh-huh.
Right. But what we do know is that the way you have been acting and eating hasn't helped you lose weight.
Mm-hmm.
So are you willing to try something different? Because I've helped 500 women or whatever it is lose weight. Like,
yeah,
it just makes sense.
Yeah, no, it's always very interesting. Sometimes I ask, is what you're doing work? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, why are we here though?
Then why are you here? Yeah. So like, and this is, this is a conversation you can have, Nathalia, right? It's like, okay, then should we just stop the call? Cause like, I don't want to waste my time. And if it's working for you, then let's just get off the call.
Mm-hmm.
And then, well, no. I want to, well, if you want to look like me, that doesn't come from doing this.
Yeah, no,
right?
it's
Or if,
wild.
If you want to have this level of success, it doesn't come from dicking around on Netflix.
Yep. Yeah. And so I have, and now around negative mindset, because that's something that we see a lot. And, we're working with women who run businesses, are, directors, C-suite, lawyers, juggling a whole bunch of kids, and they're great and they manage everything well, and they keep all the the irons on the fire throughout the week, and then they have like a bite of a pizza and that's all they can think about, because I suck and I'm such a terrible human being, and it becomes kind of like that, beating themselves up because they weren't perfect. And then they self-sabotage and then get back on that misery loop. So what has your experience with that been, and how can someone become more aware of that pattern of behavior?
So this was me as a 17-year-old junior hockey player. Every time I let in a goal, anytime in practice or in games, or even if I did the thing, like I was a goalie. So even if I stopped the puck from going in the net, but I didn't do it perfectly, I judge myself.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so how we deal with, let's say, quote unquote, failure, right, is really a matter of how do we view the thing that we just did? Because we can't take away the fact that you were good all week and then you crushed a pizza, or even you had one piece of pizza and you kind of like blew your calories or blew your diet out of the water, right? We can't take that back. Okay. So if we're stuck with it, we better deal with it in a way that's going to help us. And one of my favorite sayings around what happens when we fail or make a mistake is, judgment and curiosity live next door to each other. So what happens when we make a mistake is we're often so busy judging ourselves for the mistake and being angry at ourselves that we forget that every mistake and every failure is actually the best feedback that we could possibly ever want, because it's telling us exactly what is not working,
Mm-hmm.
which is actually what we want to know. So judgment is, I'm a piece of shit for eating that piece of pizza. Curiosity is, am I a piece of shit for eating that piece of pizza, or did I just enjoy a piece of pizza? It's a question. It's the exact same sentence, essentially. We just flip I am for am I, and we add a question mark at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's a question. And then we can go down the rabbit hole of what our brains are built to do is solve problems. So the problem that I have is I just fell off the wagon and had pizza or did something that wasn't serving my goal. How could I fix this next time?
Mm-hmm.
How could I improve this?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can't uneat the pizza.
Mm-hmm.
So what I could probably do is just make sure that I'm tight on my carbs for the rest of the day, or that I drink a little extra water so that I'm not over hungry again, or whatever. And now we can actually solve the problem, because that's what we want to do.
Or learn what triggered you to eat the pizza.
Yeah. What got me to this place? Like if I went to an event and the only option was pizza, well, I'm freaking hungry.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I'm going to eat pizza. And next time I'm going to an event where they are providing dinner and I don't have control of that, I could call ahead and I say, hey, what's the dinner option? Oh, it's only pizza. Cool. Could you do a thin crust with extra protein and light cheese? Or could you also order a salad so that I can have one piece of pizza and a salad instead of 3 pieces of pizza?
Yep.
So now like you said, we've dealt with what the trigger was, and now we can actually solve the problem next time.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love that. And I love the idea of failure being feedback, because it really is. And it's funny because even like as a business owner, entrepreneur, former athlete, sometimes I actually enjoy the challenges and the failures, because every single thing that happens, I think it is a very good opportunity to look at what could have been done better and what can we improve from it. Not every day in the office is perfect.
Exactly.
Absolutely not.
In fact, it's usually the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the people who can learn from their inevitable screw ups are the ones who are going to be best in the long term.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And what about people that cannot, which then kind of ties in with patience and the society that we live today that is after quick rewards. Everything, like even the type of social media that we're consuming today is like the quick, like you cannot keep people's attention for more than, I don't know, like 5 seconds, 10 seconds, whatever that is. And people are getting bored very easily, which then it's like, oh, I'm very excited whenever I start a business or whenever I start my fitness journey, but then I get bored. And then I kind of lose my patience. And like, how do we navigate this? Because we do that sometimes too. So how do we navigate this as a society? And if it is something that we are acutely aware that does happen, what are your strategies to navigate something like this?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, if you've made it this far in the podcast, we're 51 plus minutes in. Great job. Because a lot of people, if we didn't hold you for the first 5 seconds or 5 minutes, they're gone. What this says to me, right, is like this whole like kind of like jumping program to program or whatever it is, or business to business or anything, is this like external, it's like we are looking for something outside of ourselves to show us that this is worthwhile. And there's this great quote that says, the person who enjoys walking will walk further than the person who enjoys the destination.
Ooh, hold on. That's powerful. The person who enjoys walking.
The person who enjoys walking will walk further than the person who enjoys the destination.
That's good. Okay. That was sweet. Keep on going.
What this means is we need to find a path and a set of actions that inherently bring us joy and all the things that we want, right? So it's like, okay, the reason why you're dropping out of the program after 1 week is because you haven't got the outcome or these external result or validation that you thought you were going to get. Because like, look, people aren't stupid. Like, we understand on a deeper level what's going on. We understand that if I sign up for a workout program, it's going to take longer than 1 to 2 workouts or 1 to 2 weeks, right? And it's like, so can we make it an enjoyable process or process? I'm not sure if that's a Canadian thing. Can we make it enjoyable to get to the place we want to get to? Right now, it's not always going to be super fun, right? Like we're going to have to do some things we don't want to do. But, if I can, for example, if I need to get my steps in, right? Hey, Nathalia told me I got to get my steps in. I got to make sure I'm walking every day. I freaking hate walking on the treadmill. I hate it. So if I can at all, like as long as it's not like pouring rain or like frigidly cold, I'm going to go outside, because then I can be in nature and then I can maybe talk to some people on the street. And now I'm at least enjoying the process of walking, right? If I know that I need to get more protein, right? But I also, like having burgers, let's say, for example, could I find a way where I can enjoy eating this burger that's like more protein heavy? Like maybe I, double up on the burger patty, or maybe I have half the bun, or whatever it is, right? Can we find joy in the doing of the thing and not just in the outcome of the doing?
I love that. And it's funny because that's something that I talk about, creating novelty in the things surrounding the process. Not every
Yeah.
single day that
Make it
you
a
are.
game. Have fun with it.
Yeah, like I don't know, get a new playlist on your for your workout playlist, or get a new outfit. Or I used to have a couple different gym memberships, because whenever I was training like a lot
Yeah.
for the Olympia, I would just go to different places. So it was different people watching, and it stopped that same the boredom. But it didn't take away from the process. It just spiced it up, the process along the way.
Exactly. And I think again, how can we put conditions in place, either internally or externally or both, that give us the best chance to get to where we want to go? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's really what we've been dancing around for the last 50 minutes. Is like,
Yeah.
how can I put the conditions in place to give me the best chance to succeed?
I love that. I love that. Well, Gavin, thank you so very much for your time. Is there anything that I didn't ask that you'd like to add to the conversation today? I know that we kept very fitness centric for like obvious reason, but if there is anything else that I might have not asked, I would love for you to share with us, because I'm sure that somebody will benefit from it.
Well, first of all, I think we had such a great conversation because you did do your due diligence and prep, and I could have these conversations all day, because we just had awesome questions lead to awesome answers and all that stuff. What I will say that, I often don't get an opportunity to say to people is, everything that you need is already inside of you to have success. And if you can come from that place and double down with support of someone like Nathalia or some sort of a coach to get you where you want to go, and come from the place that this is to support me who already has everything I need within me, that is where everything that you touch is going to turn to gold. Because it's the believing that we don't have the thing that often holds people back, thinking that they're going to find it somewhere else. No, it's already inside of you. You just forgot about it somewhere along the way, and you can dust it off and find it again. So I'd love to just leave people with that thought.
I love, 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 love that so much, because it's funny. A little side note. I think I still remember very vividly, one of the biggest aha moments for me was after I had moved to the US, and I was in the beginning of my competition career and stuff like that. And I started watching The Secret, and I'm like, oh, that's a load of shit.
Oh, baby.
And I was like, that's a load of shit. The Secret. Yeah. Okay. And then I started watching it, and I just had that like snap in my mind. And I'm like, holy shit, I can literally do whatever I want. I can do and be whatever I wish. And it was almost like a turning point. for me, and I will never forget.
Yeah.
And I watched the movie and I read the book so many times. And I know that people are like, oh, it's woo-woo. Well, but I think that acknowledging that everything that you need is inside of you and that you can literally become whatever you want, you can do whatever you want. In the dynamic that we live today, that people are always looking at the outside to blame as to why they cannot or be things. I think that is a very powerful feeling.
Exactly. Because look, you and I, let's not sugarcoat it. The world outside is a mess. There's just a lot of crazy things going on. If you can just manage what's between the ears and show up as your best self, which again, like I said, it's all within you to show up as your best self. I think you're going to be putting yourself and the people around you on a better path to success and to happiness and to not falling into all this crazy shit.
Love that. Love that. Last question, and this one is funny. It's fun. What was your favorite trip that you have ever taken?
Oh, I love that. I've been a lot of places. I've had some amazing trips, but my favorite trip I've ever taken, my wife and I, she was my girlfriend at the time, we went to the west coast of Canada. There's this little island called Vancouver Island on the very west coast of Canada. And there's this little town called Tofino, and it's like a surfer's paradise, and neither of us surf. But we went there. We stayed in this tiny little cabin with this like little wood fireplace, and it was kind of like cold and rainy outside, and we just had the most fun. And it was the trip we both look back on where we both realized like, this is it. This is a thing. This is going to be the person. And it's just like one of my favorite memories of all time. So that's got to be my favorite trip.
Oh, I love that. And I love that you kind of like also remember that it was like the trip that you knew that you could like live with her for the rest of your life. And well, probably that she figured out, she's like, yeah, I think I can put up with his ass into the rest of my life.
Nailed it. Yes.
Can you tell our listeners where they can find you, where they can learn more about you? If you have anything coming up, I would love for them to learn a little bit more about your work, because I do think that your work is the most powerful tool that anybody in any area of life can have.
Thank you for that, Nathalia. So I'm relatively active on Instagram at Gavin McHale 1, a little less so now. I'm starting to become more active on YouTube if you want to search Gavin McHale. And one thing, I'm not sure when this will come out, Nathalia, but in the fall of 2024, I'm not sure on the date yet, I will be having a book coming out called Consciouspreneur. Now,
ooh, that's
Consciouspreneur,
sexy.
obviously, it's sexy, right?
I like
now,
it.
It obviously there's like a business connotation, but I want people to know the subtitle is what really matters. What to do when the hard work stops working. And so if that seems like you, hopefully Nathalia can help me share the book and we 100%. Can get that in the hands of more people.
100%. And I'll put all the links.
So much,
I'll put all the links in the show notes as well, so people can check your work out, because I'm very excited. I kind of heard you talking about a book, but I wasn't sure how close for it to happening it was. So I wasn't sure if I was going to ask, but I love that you shared.
It's coming. It's been a longer process than I expected, but it's coming. It's on the way.
I love it. I love it. Well, Gavin, thank you so much for your time. And I look forward to seeing you in more masterminds around the world. Thank you.
Yeah, I can't wait, Nathalia.
Thank you so much for tuning in this week. But let me ask you, what was your aha moment in today's episode? I would love to know. You can leave me a comment or voice message at the link in the show description. You can also follow me on Instagram and let me know what topics you want to hear more about or who I should have on the show. As for today, this is it for today, guys. I'll see you back next week for another episode of the Unfiltered Fit Life podcast.